All right, welcome to Neat Runs. Today I'm going to be sharing my adventures at Pere Marquette State Park in Illinois. Pere Marquette State Park is located in Jersey County, Illinois, right by the river town of Grafton. It is located north and slightly west of St. Louis City. Pere Marquette has campgrounds, a lodge which has hotel rooms you can stay at, as well as cabins and a visitor center, all located right on the scenic Illinois River. It offers a great weekend getaway location. You can hike or run the trails, and you can visit Grafton, which is a great little tourist town on the river with many bed and breakfasts and wineries. And the best part, there are many trails to explore. In this video, I present to you my Pere Marquette trail guide. I'll tell you the pros and cons of the park and show you the best scenery so that you know what to expect if you're planning to visit. I started my run down by the lodge and headed northeast on the Hickory South Trail. I took that to the Fern Hollow Trail, which makes up the easternmost portion of the route, and then connected back to the Hickory Trail. Then the western part climbs McAdams Peak on the Goat Cliff Trail. All in all, my run was 6.62 miles, which isn't ridiculously far, but it felt like a lot more because of the elevation profile of the trails. More on the elevation changes in just a few. Now here's my recommendation on how to choose which trail to hike or run. If you're coming to Pere Marquette for just a short hike and want to see the best scenery, stick to the Goat Cliff Trail in McAdams Peak area that's to the west. This is where all the great views are. I recommend either starting or finishing there and adding in the more eastern trails as you want to boost your mileage. The further you want to go, add in the next trail to the east. For example, if you want to just do the shortest option, just do the McAdams Peak area. The Goat Cliff Trail is only about 2 miles. If you want to make it a little bit longer though, you can add in the Hickory Trail sections, which would total 4 miles. And if you want the maximum distance, work in the Fern Hollow Trail. That's where you get the 6.6 miles. I say that because all the great views are on the trail to the west. Then the Hickory Trail in the center has good wooded trails and it's very well kept, but it has less great views. Then the Fern Hollow Trail to the east is the roughest and it has the least cool views. So only add that one in if you want to boost your distance. So as mentioned before, the trails on the west side of the park are extremely well kept. You're not going to get lost, but just be sure to know your route before you get started. There was 1 or 2 overgrown sections that were deviations from the main trail, but really no big deal. The only iffy trails to be found at this park are the trails at the very east side of the park on the Fern Hollow Trail. That seems to be the least trafficked area, so I don't think the trails get as much attention. But even those are still easily navigated. They're just a little bit more overgrown. The other thing to keep in mind here is the elevation. Garmin clocked a total of 1,036 feet elevation gain. Strava had 1,300 feet, which I'm not sure why that's so much higher. And I looked at all trails to try to figure out which one was correct, and all trails had 990 feet elevation gain. So it's probably right around 1,000 feet net elevation gain. First climb was this pink stretch here along the Hickory Trail, and that clocked in at about 332 feet elevation gain. Then there was another 2 climbs that were both right below 200 feet apiece. And also, there are big downhill sections in between. You're kind of going up and down, so it's not just constant climbing. Just for sake of comparison, in red, you can see the climb if you decide to go the opposite direction up the west side first. You would face a similar 345 feet of elevation gain if you did that. So whichever way you go, be prepared to climb some pretty big hills. What do you do after you've climbed these hills? Well, you look out at the great scenery. And yes, that is pretty much the main event here. And these are some great views. The video does not do them justice. let's talk pros and cons of Pere Marquette. First, the pros. There are definitely some great views here, as you've seen in the video. Both overlooks and the cool big rocks that you can climb on. Just overall, there's a lot of great things to see. Also, the trails are diverse. There are wooded portions, well-paved parts, rougher parts, climbs, flat areas. You can hike over the rocks, and you're not going to get bored with the terrain here. Also, for the most part, the trails are very well kept. There's very little chance of getting lost, and the trails are very well trafficked. So you don't have to worry about going face first through spider webs, unless you go early in the morning like I did. And finally, this park has some good amenities. There are cool things to see nearby. It has a lodge and visitor center, and you can stay the weekend at the lodge and visit Grafton, so it's easy to make a fun weekend trip of coming to Pere Marquette. Next, the cons. First con, all the cool scenery is concentrated in a pretty small part of the park. It's all over on that west side. There are a few kind of neat views over on the more eastern trails, and there's nothing wrong with wooded scenery, but visually, it's nothing compared to what's over on the western trails. You could see all the cool overlooks and cool scenery on like an hour hike or a 20-minute run. Next con, semi-related, there aren't really that many miles of trails at the park. I ran most of it, and it was only like a 6.5-mile run. The only thing I think I skipped over was some connector trails, so I don't really think I missed much. And the final con, the more easterly trails are definitely rougher. They are not as well trafficked and not as well maintained. It's not like you're gonna get lost or anything, but just keep in mind they're a little overgrown. Final takeaways. I can recommend Pere Marquette if you're in the area. Would I travel very far to hike here? Probably not. There just isn't enough here. I did pretty much all the trails and it was only about 6 miles. But if you live in the St. Louis area or nearby in Illinois, at some point you should try to take a weekend trip out to Grafton, stay in a bed and breakfast, or even stay at Pere Marquette, which is what we did, and come see the trails, or make a day trip of it. There's plenty to do in the area. There's the Grafton River Road, which I may make a video about at some point. There's a lot of great river scenery, a lot to see. So all in all, 2 thumbs up, I guess. I don't have a standard rating scale. Thank you for watching.